Released in 1982 by Atari, Space Dungeon is a unique blend of maze exploration, action, and combat that was designed to capture the arcade experience on the home console, specifically the Atari 5200. While it was a solid attempt to bring the arcade atmosphere home, does Space Dungeon still hold up today? Let's dive into it. At its core, Space Dungeon is an action-packed maze shooter where players control a lone space explorer navigating through an alien dungeon. The goal is simple: find the exit while shooting enemies, avoiding traps, and surviving waves of increasingly difficult foes. The dungeon layout is randomly generated, which means every playthrough offers a slightly different experience, though the overall gameplay loop can get repetitive over time. The player uses a laser gun to eliminate enemies, and there's a variety of creatures to face, from simple blobs to more complex robots. The game also features power-ups like health and ammo, adding a layer of strategy as you navigate through levels. The Atari 5200's joystick has been infamous for its sensitivity and somewhat inconsistent input, and unfortunately, Space Dungeon is not immune to this issue. While the controls are functional, they can occasionally feel frustrating, especially when trying to turn quickly or shoot while moving in tight corners. This can be a bit of a hindrance in more intense moments where precise control is needed, but with practice, it becomes easier to adjust. For its time, Space Dungeon was impressive in terms of its visuals. The maze-like environment, filled with walls, doors, and alien creatures, had a distinct and colourful style. The enemy designs are basic by modern standards, but were effective in creating an atmosphere of alien danger. The game's visual appeal doesn't have the sharp detail we'd expect from modern games, but it was a decent attempt for an early 80s title on a console like the Atari 5200. The sound design in Space Dungeon includes simple sound effects, such as laser blasts and enemy movements, which fit the retro sci-fi vibe of the game. The music, though repetitive, adds to the overall atmosphere without overpowering the gameplay. While the audio doesn't break new ground, it gets the job done and adds a touch of immersion to the action. Space Dungeon offers a decent challenge, especially as the dungeon layout and enemies become more complex as you progress. The difficulty ramps up quickly, and you'll find yourself dying often as the game tests your reaction time and strategic thinking. The randomly generated levels ensure that there's some replay value, though the game can feel somewhat repetitive after multiple playthroughs. For retro gaming fans who enjoy a challenging and somewhat grindy experience, the replayability is there, but modern gamers might find it lacking in variety. Space Dungeon on the Atari 5200 is a fun, but flawed retro title. It delivers a solid arcade experience with random dungeon layouts, combat, and power-ups, making it a compelling choice for fans of old-school gaming. However, the somewhat frustrating controls, repetitive gameplay loop, and lack of deep mechanics might not be for everyone. If you're a fan of classic Atari games and enjoy challenging maze shooters, Space Dungeon is worth a try. Just be prepared for some frustration with the controls, and keep your expectations in check when it comes to variety. Overall, it's a decent, if dated, piece of Atari 5200 history that offers a fun blast from the past for those who appreciate retro gaming.